We've got everybody here. Morning, everybody. Good morning, Martin. I'm going to try and get an interview with Martin today. I'm going to try and squeeze in. So I'm going to move at a pace, if I may. Last week's, let me just go and share again. Sorry about that. Where are we? Last week, the app shared or revealed, the poll revealed, there was a particular interest going forward for more information, more discussion about LinkedIn. We're not going to do that today, but also what favored very well for me, at least was fairly obvious out of the top 4, 3 of them were all to do with productivity, mindset, getting your head around what we're doing. And not surprisingly, most of us work on our own. And I found that the biggest challenge. I think a lot of people in lockdown have found the challenge of working indoors and being isolated. And I know when we work for ourselves, we maybe have people around us that help us in the networking groups and being able to get out. But trying to sort things out on your own is never very easy. And I'm going to pick up on this business marketing tools and productivity, time management. And I don't know whether everybody will agree, but juggling balls in the air, I've been through stages where I wanted to do more, get more out of the day. I'd prepare lists, etc., and I'd never get through everything. There was lists. Does anybody else feel like that? Anybody else feel they've got the challenge of time management?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting better. I'm a lot better than I was, but I feel horrendous. It's improving.
Well, there is one fact: we can't manage time, and that I came across this about 12 months, 18 months ago, and realised it was fairly futile to be trying to get more time out of the day. I mean, there is only so much time in the day, but what you can do is manage priorities, and in the majority of cases, do we set priorities? Have we got priorities that we've set? Because if you decide, if you get a blank sheet of paper and say, what are my priorities in business? Or the work-life balance, if you set those first, you've got some chance of deciding what you're planning to do or what is distracting you, what's taking you, grabbing your attention. Does it meet with what priorities you've got, where you're going? So I started to think, and it's just a matter of opening up this discussion, and then I'm going to get some breakout groups to decide on it. One of the questions I didn't ask myself when I left corporate and set up in business is why I was setting up a business. What was my why? To tell you the truth, it was survival. I'd in a huff, I'd decided I was going to go. Mistake or not, I saw an opportunity to earn money elsewhere, and I wasn't really setting up a business. Chris agrees with me. I wasn't setting up a business. I was becoming self-employed. And so my only thought was survival. And therefore I stumbled into doing business, but I wasn't running a business. I was being self-employed. And in all the time I've met people at BNI, etc., the majority of people are self-employed. In other words, somebody else paying the wage, I'm paying my own wage. I'm being self-employed. The question is, am I really running a business? Does anybody know the difference? Can anybody define the difference between self-employed and running a business? Rebecca. Good morning, by the way.
Say that running a business means that if you left it, it could continue to make money or carry on. It doesn't rely on you.
I think that's spot on. It's and very often I hear conversations, and when people are really stressed and busy, and Peter's trying to get on at the moment, which is good to see. You'll have to catch up with the speed. I'll talk to you later. But keep trying. You've got a button there for sound and a button there for music, for visuals, but can't help you any further than that. Anyway, and very often we talk about working on the business rather than we very often are working in the business. We're doing, and that's what's giving us the challenge. So I think when we've got the challenge of not enough time in the day, we're probably spending a lot more time working in the business rather than on the business. It's not easy. It's not easy. When we start a business, morning, Pete, we've got you.
Sorry, I was late. Thank you.
That's all right. We'll do the introductions and say hello later, if I may. We're just talking about time management and really switching that to priority management and the challenges of starting a business. And I thought of this also when we come into whatever business, whether we become self-employed or whether we start a business, we need to think about the capital we're putting into that business, the equity we've got in the business. We've either got financial capital, so we can afford to set up a business. If we've got a big redundancy, we can afford to set up everything that we need in terms of capital, including employing people, even part-time. Or so that's the equity in the business, or we've got sweat equity. And in most cases, it's sweat equity. It's the effort we put in. And because we don't have people around us, we end up doing everything. And getting out of that routine is a real challenge, isn't it? And that's why we're still stuck in that situation where there's not enough time to do everything. And it's very easy to burn out. And in a futile fashion, we think somehow I've got to have better time management, etc. So we'll do this list, or we'll get these apps or whatever. So I've been reluctant to share and I will do, and I think all of us should share things that we use as business apps that make our life easier. But I didn't want to go down that route first of all, because I think the first thing we've got to all decide is, what are our priorities? Why did we start our business? Was it just for survival? Well, after you've realized that you survived, what is the end game? I know that Ewan and Rod have talked about this when we formed the funeral marketing company. It was all very well putting some money in together and deciding what we're going to do. But what is the end game? And we decided what the end game is. We decided that in 5 years, we want to be able to build a business that we can sell on and take the equity out. Because for me, I'll be closer to 80 than 70 by then, so I'll be glad to do that. But it's an interesting point for each one of us. What is your end game? What is your why as to why you got into it? Was it just to be self-employed? Was it like Manny, a passion? You know, a goal? And it shifts over time. Mine is more to make a difference than anything else now. I'm not as concerned from a financial point of view of surviving. More to make a difference. And I think that maybe some people do that. I mean, anybody want to put their why as to why they're doing what they're doing? Chris, and then Anne-Marie.
I mean, lots of ways. It's because I'm a liability being an employee. So I think the only way for me to move forward is to be self-employed. No, if I'm honest, it's because I really want to make a difference this time. I feel like last time I did this, I worked on instinct and momentum alone, and this time I very much want to make a difference to the greater good.
That's good. I tend to get the feeling of that whenever I talk to you, whenever you're saying in these groups and the things that you're doing. Anne-Marie.
Yeah, very similar, really. There's the obvious why, as in, you know, need to make money, need to survive, that kind of thing. But the actual, I guess, real gut reason why is because I've done it. And it's like, well, if I can do it, everyone can do it. And I just want to be able to support people and help them to see that it isn't, you know, it's not as complicated as you think. So it's very similar to what Chris said, really. Yeah.
Anybody else? Marcus, and then Mel.
I guess, I mean, I always struggle with the why from a business point of view. I mean, the why that I do photography is because I really looking to create really good photographs. And that's always been my sort of modus operandus, really, is to just be a really good photographer, be as good as I can be, and create great photographs.
Do you think that creative people are more likely to, they've got that passion for creativity, and the beauty of creativity is you can stand back and admire what you've done. You get pleasure out of that. I know I do. If I happen by chance to take a photograph that I think is fairly good, I get pleasure out of it, or a video edit or whatever. Now, Pete, you've got a new business, I believe. Do you want to tell us briefly, and then tell us what your why is? You know, why you got into doing what you're doing?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Nice to meet all of you. I won't remember your names, but thanks for waving. At least 3 of you. So I literally started my company on the 26th of March this year. I left a very secure multinational role that I've been doing for 22 years because, like Chris, I wanted to make a difference. What was very clear to me in my corporate role is I had the skills, the ability, and the drive to do things that the corporate organization around me didn't. So I spent the last 3 years walking into a brick wall repeatedly, which was not very comfortable or fun in any way. So I had to kind of step back, and I tried to find the 3 things I do really well and enjoy doing, and my aim is to build a business around those. So my first talent, if you like, is I can make just about any program, whether it's a complex program with 400 work streams or a simple program with 2 or 3 work streams, I can make it work in almost any environment. I've done the kind of full range of program management, whether it's focused on products, on deployment projects, on organizational change, and I haven't failed in 22 years. You know, and it's something I love doing and something I'm very good at. So I want to go and help businesses achieve their transformation by making their programs successful. The second thing I do really well, or I believe I do really well, and some people might disagree if they've had to put up with me, is presentations. I've delivered over 2,500 presentations in the last 22 years. I've created we calculated 240,000 slides in 22 years. So I know a lot about presentations. I know how to deliver them in different situations. I know how to make it fun. And I've got a kind of framework I use that I think will allow anybody to deliver a really fun, effective presentation, no matter what the purpose or their experience. And then the third one is really I want to help people. I'm a big believer in inclusion, diversity, and really helping people achieve their potential. So as I work with people, I'm not just looking at, you know, the business we're doing. I'm trying to look at how can I help you become better at what you're doing as a kind of side effect of working together.
So what's your business set up as? How would you describe it?
I kind of describe myself as a management consultant because it covers as many bases as possible, but with a focus on execution. You know, if you look at a lot of management consultancy sites, they're very good at telling you what they do and why they're brilliant, but they don't talk about how you're going to do it with them and what problems you're going to lose by working with them. They're very much focused on we're wonderful, whereas I'm very much focused on I think you have these problems. If you have these problems, if we work together, we can solve them.
Well, I think you're going to enjoy Marketing Crew, because I'm going to now move into that, if I may. In terms of so what we just really set out to discuss there is what is your why? Why did you get involved in what you're doing? Martin, you wanted to say something? All right, no. Hey, you'd be terrible at an auction, you know. You'd have just bought an antique Lamborghini or whatever there. We've talked about, we just started the discussion out as to why you got involved in the business that you've got into. What was your why? Was it to be just to survive, or was it to really set up a business that you can then sell on or hand down or whatever? And Rebecca gave us a very good explanation of what that is. It's when you are working, when you're able to work on your business rather than in it. And that supposes you've got other people doing things that you've not got the skills to do, nor the time to do, nor is it part of your skill set that Pete's just mentioned. And if you haven't got the funding to do that, and everybody's faced with that, you know, you've only got so much funding, then how can you automate that? How can you automate it? If I've got time, I'll show you something I've automated. It took me about 10 minutes to complete the whole lot, about attracting an audience, but I won't cover it just yet. And if I don't get to cover it this week, I'll cover it next week. So what I'd like to do is to break off for about 15 minutes into groups so that you can each explore together what your why was when you got involved in business, and what the roadblocks are in terms of managing your time. What are you spending most of your time doing? And Mel, I think if you can be as succinct as possible so I can get through as many of these questions as possible. And it's an opportunity for the rest of us to learn what Mel's all about. In one sentence, tell us what your prime business is.
It's a specialist recruitment agency for the marketing, sales, and digital areas.
So that identifies that people with agencies, marketing agencies. I'm having trouble hearing you. Oh, shut up. Creative agencies.
Yeah.
When they've got a problem with people, you help them recruit.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I touched on this before, that 2 in 5 businesses only take 2 weeks to discover they've made the wrong hire. And that's a staggering fact, really, because they've spent all this money getting the people who they think is right. But we have a right first time policy. So I won't send anybody who I don't think will fit in with the culture, the business, and the team.
Right. Okay. How long have you been doing this?
We started the business in probably July, August 2019. I was still working full-time as a copywriter then, and so I stopped doing that and took control of the business in February 2020. And then, of course, on the 23rd of February, we all know what happened then. And
so
lockdown came.
You said we, and you took control. Is that because you now own the business on your own, or you?
No, not at all. I mean, by that I meant that my partner is also a managing director of a marketing agency and didn't really have time to devote himself to this. So I then became 100% devoted to it.
Right. So I was about to say what got you into that, and I'm not going to assume it was copywriting, but when you first started to become employed, what did you do, and what was your story? What was that path?
What, to get into recruitment?
Yeah. Were you always in recruitment? You were in copywriting. Were you always in copywriting?
No. Before that, I'd worked in marketing, advertising agencies all my life, and have moved through the ranks. I'm a creative person by trade, and then I moved into the account management, into the senior management directors, and I became MD of McCann Erickson in Bristol. And I think the reason that I decided to move on was, I think we've touched on this before with the other guys, it was corporate, it was tell me your figures at 8 o'clock in the morning, telling me again at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because obviously an American company wants a return on their investment. I mean, they just sort of were run by, it's finance, it's run by accountants.
Well, McCann Erickson is one of the world's biggest agencies, so that's a very impressive background. When you say you were creative, were you in design or were you an account manager? Well,
no, I was an art director.
All right.
So I started as an art director, and then sort of moved through. And I think creative is a young man's role. I believe there are still some opportunities for the older generation, shall we say. But I then moved into account management because I'm a people person. I got on with clients, and I enjoyed the interaction on a daily basis with them.
Right. Who's your favourite advertising agency or guy?
Oh, without a doubt, Drayton Bird.
Yeah, direct advertising, direct marketing.
Yeah,
I think we mentioned that before.
Because it's quantifiable. Give me X and I'll return Y.
Yeah,
it's an equation that tells me how I'm spending my promotional pound.
I actually think that more small businesses should lean more towards direct marketing than any other type of marketing because of the limited availability and the need to be able to measure what they're doing and what their return is.
Well, exactly. And if you read his book, Common Sense Direct Marketing, it's got, and this was written probably in the 70s, 80s, and it's got so much stuff in there which still applies today, because he learned from the best from David Ogilvy.
Yeah, well, he's my favourite, I think, Ogilvy. Right. We've just come through the pandemic. We're opening up. How do you see the next 6 months panning out for you and your business?
I see it being able to make more contacts and start doing maybe some direct marketing, because if I know that the prospects are sitting in their offices, they're more likely to open an envelope when it's addressed to them in their office. And by that, I can then do a telephone follow-up and refer to the communication I've just sent them. So I've got a reason to speak to these guys or girls, and then hopefully get a 10, 20-minute face-to-face meeting over coffee.
Right. And how do you, I mean, you've obviously got some impressive credentials there. What method do you say that at the moment you're looking to do more direct marketing, which is straight and bird type, so that's email, letters, direct mail. Do you do any email marketing, telemarketing?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a combination, I've always been a great believer in multimedia campaigns. They're giving people more opportunities to see what you're offering. And if it's a press ad, if it's a direct mail pack, if it's a media insert, if it's an email, or if it's a telephone, there should be a combination of all those things if you can afford it.
Given that they've not been, we don't know whether they've been in they haven't been able to be in their office. Have you done any telemarketing?
No, I've not. I've done very little. It's all been email marketing.
Right. Have you ever considered telemarketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and my project this week is now, because I believe there'll be more people who are available, will be to send out my email marketing campaign with a telephone follow-up to selected agency sort of decision makers.
So what size is the audience that you're reaching out to? But bearing in mind, it's very niche, it's very defined, it's people with it's advertising agencies. Would that all, and it would be advertising agencies employing a certain number of people. What size is in your?
No, I mean, believe it or not, there are about 200 companies within the Bristol and Southwest area who would be interested in our services. So that's my ceiling is that every one of those companies, plus some SMEs and other companies who would have a marketing or digital function in-house, because they'll still be looking for team members.
Yeah, so you could have, that's interesting. Are you using LinkedIn at all to widen that list?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you notice, Felix, that every week I'll put a post on there which is relevant. I think like last week it was about people, falsifying, stretching their CVs to the limit, and it's not always going to be true. I don't know if you're picking that one up. And then the week before it was about people returning to the office. So there's about, over the last sort of weeks or whatever, so I've put about 12 or 13 different posts on there, mainly to get myself and my company visible. So there'll always be a graphic on there which shows who we are, what we do, and contact details.
Good. Pete, I thought Anne-Marie had raised her hand, but it was the cat's tail. So
well, if the cat's got a question, I'll quite happily answer it.
So
Pete, you had a question.
Just going back a couple of sentences, you talked about going to companies that have a digital function, and what I was just going to say is you've got to be very careful as to what you mean by a digital function, because in my world, digital has nothing to do with your world. It's all about automation, business platforms, building ecosystems, and applying technology to an existing manufacturing or operations process. Whereas I think you mean digital more as digital marketing, digital.
I think it was perhaps an employee that was responsible for marketing that reached a stage where they need to appoint a reasonably priced marketing person with no experience of of recruiting somebody like that. Am I right for that, Mel?
Yeah, and also digital covers a multitude of sins anyway, and I think they will need a digital person, especially if they've got remote their staff remote working as well, because they need somebody who can do the internal bit as well as the external bit.
Right. Anne-Marie.
Can I just come back to the direct marketing a second? I not being in the marketing industry, I've not heard of the people that you spoke about, but I get obviously the gist that we're talking about direct marketing in terms of actually sending, physical letters, etc.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to ask what the thoughts are, and maybe it's possible, Paul, to have a session on this perhaps on the direct marketing side of things, because I got this in the post at the weekend and I thought, oh my God, it's someone trying to sell me something. It's actually a card from a client with thank you, thank you, thank you, and loads of, and it meant the world to me to have that, because people don't do this anymore. And for me, I would love to do something like that, to be able to mail something out to people, whatever it might be. But because I'm primarily B2C, I don't know where I would get addresses from or how I would go about doing that. So is it perhaps something we could discuss in another?
Absolutely.
It depends, that is, that's easy. I can certainly help you with that. It depends on, there are different criteria. There are age, geographical, and all the kind of things that you can find out. There are lists which, the best ones are the ones that you've created yourself. But there are plenty of people. I think it depends on who you want to talk to and why do you want to talk to them and what do you want to say.
I think for the size of Anne-Marie's business, the first thing I would do is look at ways in which you could use that with your existing clients as building.
Yeah, to develop more business from your existing clients.
Yeah. And yes, no, I think direct marketing is, and it's not just direct mail. Direct marketing is much broader than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a couple of, where's my questions here? You know what you sell. What are people buying? Bearing in mind that, if we focus on what we're doing and what we're selling, we might be missing a trick, because we really ought to be focusing on what people buy, and people buy the afters. So what is it people are buying when they buy you, Mel?
Well, I think Pete touched on it earlier, and he talked about problem solving, and it's not about us. It's about what we can actually do for the client, what they're buying. And I think you've heard me say this many times, Paul, people don't buy products or services, they buy solutions to problems. So we're providing solutions to people who want to find that ideal candidate.
But can you express that in emotional terms? I.e., when somebody's paid you whatever you charge and you've delivered, what are they going to say? What are they going to feel? They've got a pain. You've identified the pain that they've got right now. I can add to this what I think it is, but can anybody help Mel in this?
Well, I think it's as I've said, it's right first time.
No, that's what you're doing. I'm talking about what they're getting. I want you to. I've got an agency. I've got 10 people on the staff, but I needed an account handler because the guy that I've got is not delivering the business.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it I get? What is it? What am I buying from you?
Well, we've got what I'd call the end-to-end candidate recruitment journey. So we start with they'll write a job description, but that's not what we would put on the job board. We would write it to attract the right candidates, and they're getting us helping them. Some of our clients want to do it themselves, and so what they'll do is they'll advertise for whatever candidate, an account manager, as you just said, and they might get 100 applicants. And what we would do, we would make life easier for them by taking those candidates and going through the process and evaluating them and making sure that we help them out. We're a safe pair of hands.
Right. So can I rephrase this in the way I've just picked that up? I want to get on dealing and satisfying and managing the team, and I want to get on with delivering for the clients. I don't want to be frustrated diverting my time, wasting my time talking to people who are not qualified. So you're saving people time. You are raising the quality of people that are working in your business, and that indeed will raise the expectations and quality of people overall, which the client benefits. How you put that into some marketing blurb, I don't know yet, but can you see? I don't know whether that's perfect, but that's what I'm more focusing on a little bit more, about what the client gets out of it, rather than what you know. Right first time is a great phrase for you, but it's making it much clearer as to what the benefit of that is to the end client.
Well, and the emails I send out talk about numerous things, and one of them is let us do the hard work, and we'll take the pressure off you, and you can do exactly what you just described, that your day job.
Anybody, any other questions for Mel? Yes, Nick.
Yeah, Mel, can I just jump back to the direct marketing piece that we touched on earlier? Do you feel like you've got to a place now where you've got proven direct marketing methodologies in place where they're repeatable, you know that you can push them out and you'll get a return of X and they work, and then you can budget for that? So you know going into a new financial year, you can spend X and you'll get Y. It just ticks over and it works for you? Or are you still learning and developing? And
No, I've been doing direct marketing for longer than I care to remember. And, you know, for all a diverse range of products from sort of equity release to, you know, prepaid funeral plans. And I think the equity release one, the client had it's a niche market, and we were able to, or the agency was able to sort of, you know, mail these people probably, and Paul says this, you know, it takes 7 communications before somebody will buy. And we were doing this, but we rotated the communication, even if it was just changing the color of the envelope or the headline or the typeface. But so no, I think, you know, hopefully going forward now, direct marketing is going to work. People like to receive envelopes, and I think, and they read them, and people call it junk mail, and it's only junk mail if it's gone to the wrong person. I mean, there are three things that a pack can do. You know, it's the communication, it's the product, and it's the list. And you can get the communication wrong, you can get the product wrong, but you can't get the list wrong. If you get that wrong, then you've wasted your time.
If you've got 200 clients, if you've got 200 target clients, from a direct mail point of view, it's just a matter of how much you've got to spend and make all those touches. 200 clients shouldn't be very difficult, even on mail. It's not expected, you know, 200 times the price of a first-class stamp or a special delivery. It's not as if you're trying to deal with thousands there. Ewan?
I suppose I've got one question, and it's obviously your clients, the people who pay your bills, Mel, are the agencies and the organisations, but also the nature of your business is you're basically fitting together 2 points. Because what do you do for because obviously yours is based on getting really good candidates, and that's what you want. So how do you base on getting the best candidates as well? Because I think potentially recruitment is going to go from a bear market to a bull market. And I'd be honest with you, my personal experience with recruitment agencies has never been good, ever.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a massive opportunity from a candidate's point of view to do something, you know, to make people feel, you know, to make the candidates feel a lot more loved than they currently do. And I think that could be a real point of difference, because if you get the best candidates, you know, that helps you to on
our website. We've got, you know, separate pages. I've got a client page, obviously, and I've got a candidate page, and I view them as being equally important, because I've also got a database of candidates who are out there who are very talented and very good, and they're looking for. They've started to be a bit more selective now. But what's coming out is the fact that they also want to be to work on a hybrid basis. So, you know, they're probably looking for jobs that the employers are going to be more flexible. So they don't want, you know, five days a week, 9 to 5 in the office. They want the flexibility because they've got used to it during the lockdowns and home working.
How do you find your clients, Mel?
Well, I created my own database. I mean, that wasn't difficult to do that because it's all in all the opportunities you've got within the Bristol and the Southwest, and then it's basically targeting them, mailing them when possible, emailing, and just basically being able to sign them up either on a contract basis or just on a one-off.
Right. What going forward and what do you think the biggest challenge you've got over the next 6 months to achieve what you said you wanted to achieve?
I think the uncertainty within the economy, and I think a lot of people are waiting to find out what happens when furlough finishes, because obviously they've got to make decisions then. They've either got to pay the staff what they're used to paying them as opposed to the 20% they've been paying them. And I think there's going to be a huge turnover of people either being made redundant or being retained. And I think the people are still very hesitant to make decisions. It's getting better, but there are a majority of people out there are still waiting to see what happens. And I think, we hear it in the news every day, this June the 21st, is it going to happen or isn't it going to happen? I think there's still a lot of uncertainty.
Okay, all right. Anybody want to ask Mel any other questions? Good. Well, thanks for that, Mel.
Okay, yeah.
Now I know that Rod, do you mail out yourself, or do you, because Rod, you've got experience with the company that mails out?
I mean, I've done my own leaflets with good old Harry 75 notes goes up the path. That's the most direct I've done recently. But I've just engaged a guy over in Bridgewater who does direct marketing, and he's got to come up with a report. But what I'm looking for is bungalows in Wells. Now, I know where the bungalows are in Wales because I know Wales very, very well. And I want to make sure that his information marries up with what I already know. So then that way I can trust him for bungalows in Poulton, Radstock, Midsummer Norton, and so on. And you can see why I want bungalows. Not everybody in a bungalow is old. I could be living in a bungalow, and look how young I am, just a sweet chap, But,
yeah. I think, what is the relevance of the targeting of bungalows?
Well, the majority of people in bungalows are unable to get upstairs, so they're old.
Never thought of that.
Simple as that.
And so they're old. And is this for funeral plans or for funerals?
Both.
Right. So if you've got any relation that says I'm going to move to a bungalow, you
look out.
Fear for the worst, right, Ewan?
Rod, you can actually target demographically. You can target down to age quite easily with postal addresses and postcode areas.
No, I didn't know that. No.
You can.
Yeah.
What it's called, there's a number of different ways of doing it. There's socioeconomic targeting, but there's also just, basically it works on the premise that people of the same type live in the same type of area, which is, the same way houses are built in the same type of area. So you can go and ask for lists of places with people who are the majority or above a certain age, of a socioeconomic group, of socially. You can basically do everything you can do in digital. You can do it with postal. It's not quite as accurate, but you can do the same thing, and it's also cheaper to buy those addresses. There's a number of different places there's a different number of different data agencies that do it, and it's not expensive to buy their data from them.
No. The company I'm talking about is MailerDoc, and the thing is, they offer a complete bespoke service. So not only do they offer the distribution area, but they also offer the printing, the construction of the communication, and all those things together. So you're going to be writing to a person at a proper address. So it's sort of a little bit more professional. And you can script the handwriting on the envelope to look like it's handwriting.
Yeah. So they're a direct mail.
Yeah. So I'm only going to do I think I'm going to do £1,000 worth.
Yeah.
And that might only be a couple of hundred, but I just want a test.
I would ask them, Rod. I would ask them how you can target. I would put the question to them: how can I target? rather than telling them what you want to target. Ask them, this is the person I want to find, tell me how I can find them, and they will give you more options than you've asked for. I would guarantee it.
They're the specialists. Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah, just to say, I mean, it's an obvious one, really. I think postal works really well, actually, for Rod's target audience. You know, people of a certain vintage, that they're more, you know, obviously yourself, not within this pool, but people tend to sort of go for the postal, really, rather than the sort of email and electronic side, anyway. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's completely.
I think the older generation are more likely to write letters, and they're missing reading letters.
In charity terms, they're known as Dorothy Donor.
What? Sorry.
In charity terms, they're known as Dorothy Donor.
Dorothy Donor. The big article in the Telegraph about the money that heads of charities earn. Goodness me, I should have been involved in that business. So you see, Anne-Marie, it's quite interesting what you're interested to do. We'd be interested to get together with Rod and find out, or in fact Mel, about what is possible. But I think we'll do a session on what direct marketing entails, which is more to do with, and it's something I've said before, marketing is an investment. It's an investment in getting in front of your target audience and hopefully engaging with them, and being able to, and you need to be able to measure it if it's an investment. An investment is where you put money into something, you've got that money at risk, but at least you can measure the return you get on that. And if you can't measure it, it's a punt. And I don't think people of our ilk, of our size, have got money to be doing punts. You know, at least Rod will, if he's going to spend £1,000, he'll be able to measure what he does. I'm more interested as to, because you clearly think that the market of bungalows is better than, say, spending £1,000 on Google.
No, I don't necessarily think that. I think spending money on Google's worthwhile because you can test and measure that. But the people that I'm trying to get at, potentially are not necessarily Google initiated or Google related. So they may well be older than the group that we're talking about, you know, so they may be 80 plus, you know, so they're exactly the people I want to speak to.
Right. So, but the beauty is that you've got two areas that are measurable, and you can compare the results on each and say, well, they're both worthwhile doing, or that's perfect. Because it'd be interesting to also measure about the amount of money that's spent on print advertising, because that's less measurable.
Oh, I know. I mean, I do the Voice every month, and it cost me about 120 quid. I don't look at it as a cost. I look at it, as you say, as an investment. It's a way of keeping your name in front of the public all the time and illustrating that with other stuff.
It's not an investment unless you can measure it. So in my terms, anyway.
Yeah.
But it's some branding, which is important in building up that authority. Anne-Marie and then Ewan.
Yeah, just quickly. Sorry, does anybody find it that they're more receptive to things if there's a gift, i.e. a pen or a tea bag or a fridge magnet or something in that envelope?
A kiss, I'll do it, but...
I actually think, Anne-Marie, that's, you know, as the world becomes more environmentally focused, it's such a waste to chuck something in an envelope that could just go in the bin, particularly if it's plastic.
It can cheapen the...
That's just a personal opinion.
As well.
Ewan?
Anne-Marie, I've done the whole sending out pens for charities by the billions and everything else. They would say there is proof that they work. I think you're right. I think in the modern world, it's a different thing. I would say test it. You know, if it's a tea, I've had tea bag. I've had someone, you know, let's have a cup of tea, and they've sent a tea bag through the post. If at the end of the day, if you're talking to people who've got an interest in what you're doing, or you think they've got an interest, then making that interest more tied to what you do is certainly not a bad thing. But yes, I mean, you're only talking small numbers, so.
I quite like getting a pen or a tea bag, I must admit. I don't tend to throw them in the bin. I got a fruit tea bag the other day. I don't like fruit tea, but I tried it because someone had sent it to me. But yeah, it's return on investment. Obviously, you have to balance it. But I just wondered what the general feeling was.
Why did they? Who was it that sent it to you, and what did they want you to do?
Buy some of their skincare products.
With a cup of tea? Oh, with a herb tea.
Herbally, naturally stuff.
I wonder whether they've been better off sending a skincare product.
Yeah.
Martin hasn't spoken, then Mel, and then Ewan.
No, I just wondered, Anne-Marie, did that have any effect upon you? Did you think, oh yeah, I want to go and buy that product?
It did, because I thought it was a really nice touch. And yeah, it gave me the opportunity to try something I would not have normally bought. I still won't go and buy it, but I just thought the fact, because there was a little handwritten note as well saying, you know, oh, whatever it said, I can't remember now, with this little tea bag attached to it, have a cup of tea and read our thing. And I just thought, oh, what a nice touch. Maybe I'm just really gullible. Like I said, I'm everybody's best customer, so maybe I am. But I like, rather than, if that had just come through cold with nothing, it would be in recycling by now. As it is, it's still sitting on my desk for me to go, oh, I will look through that and I will get something because there's a few bits in there that I like.
Well, again, it's a little bit like email, the subject, you've got to get somebody to open that envelope, etc. And I think Mel and Ewan have got a lot of experience in there. Somebody else had the hand up. Was it Ewan and then Mel?
I was just going to go back to Rod quickly and just say, you know, Rod is doing absolutely what everyone, you know, wants to do. He's employing the marketing mix. He's trying different channels to get to his target audience, but he's realizing that his target audience has a slightly different profile. So one is more of a digital profile, and the older generation is a slightly, you know, more postal based one. The only thing is just measure one against the other and you'll get different responses. But also down to the advertising, we used to use a lot of thing about halo effects. You know, if someone sees an advert and then gets a mail piece, the power of the two is increased. So it's not money down the drain. You're quite right. It's just keeping you front of mind. So when that piece of mail arrives through the letter, or through the post, or when that Google ad comes up, there's that connection to it.
I think that when you've what Anne-Marie's talking about and what Rod's talking about is getting in front of the appropriate audience, and then what? It's getting to lean forward, have the engagement. So in Rod's case, that they send off for information, or that they are willing to give an address to take. Well, you've got the address. You will know where they've got the. You know that they've opened it and they've made the inquiry. It's what will they do next? What are you looking to do next, Rod?
That's a good point, really. I mean, you've got to give them something to inspire their interest. So it could be, you know, it could be back to the good old John Lewis, couldn't it?
Yeah, by that you mean if they take out a funeral plan.
You give them an incentive to.
Because I think one of the challenges, and I'm not saying it is in your case, but getting in front of the right audience, getting engagement. Remember, 82% of sales take place after the 7th touch. If you imagine that to be true, it could be shorter, it could be longer, but you've got to think, how am I going to stay in touch? How am I going to take them through a process? If Rod's got them to take an interest in a funeral plan, how does he stay in touch? I'm not sure that Rod's got the systems to stay in touch.
I just love the idea of Rod sending something in an envelope that everyone opens and it kills them all off. So he's done his job.
Been watching too many conspiracy theories.
It could be an almanac he sends them. And that is where the tea bag, and that's where the tea bag actually for Rod could be more appropriate. I'm just going to go around and just one last, very, very quickly. What have you got from today's meeting? Anne-Marie.
Oh gosh, loads. I think as I always find, it's nice because everybody's in the same boat, and when you're on your own, you have a tendency to think that you're the only one that doesn't know how to get customers or how to do engagement or how to market. And I think being able to share ideas and the ideas that everyone's come up with is really beneficial.
I think though we want to be careful, because one thing we've got always is new ideas, new contributions from various people that have got an expertise or have done things that are right, or maybe flagged things that might not work or whatever. You've still got to decide what you can feasibly do, and I think you've got to come back to that priority bit. You know, what is my end game? Where am I now? How am I going to go on that journey? And what are my priorities? And it's very, I found it, if you've got the discipline to stay with those priorities so that other things are distractions, they're not getting you from A to B, because your time is precious, even more so if you're on your own and you haven't got people around you that you can delegate stuff to. Mel, anything what have you got from today's meeting?
Exhaustion. And revisiting direct marketing, which is my passion, and I'd like to see that developed over the weeks.
Well, it'd be good to get your contribution on a session on direct marketing. I'd like to, next week, if it's possible, to quiz Martin, give him a bit of warning. But Martin, what have you got from today?
Yeah, it's a reaffirmation or confirmation of this sort of process I'm trying to go through. So it's just basically streamline. So so when I do get busy, I have these things in place, and also just so many different angles of marketing to people. That's not just one route. I found that really interesting. And considering print marketing, which you always think is something that is not done anymore almost, but into the right audience, it's we're talking about the effectiveness of it.
A handwritten envelope, well targeted, a card with your signature on, because we're not receiving them anymore, will really stand out. Chris?
I think it's an ongoing evolution all the time in terms of adding more information and maybe filtering that to see where it's useful right now, and maybe in 6 months' time. And I'm starting to think more strategically about quarters, not just the next month.
Yeah, good. Andrew?
Yeah, I think the direct marketing thing's been really interesting, actually, and also time management and pricing and all that sort of stuff as well. So, yeah, very interesting. A lot from this meeting, to be honest.
Rod's probably had thank you, Andrew. Rod's probably had a call. Nick?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of topics today, haven't we? It's and I think it always comes back. What comes back to me is it's remembering where your target audience live, where they sit, and what do they do, and making sure you're talking to them. And for me, I think it's not about trying to do everything, but doing a few things well. And for me, I don't think print is the right way to go, but I think I need to focus on a couple of particular areas of my marketing and really home in on those and do them properly without the distractions of, as we've talked about before, being pulled off in different directions, which I'm doing.
It's funny. It's probably until you see some different examples, and this is where maybe disruption is quite interesting. Marcus very kindly let me have access to some PDFs that he uses as lead magnets about style photography for women, style photography for men. And first of all, I haven't done so, Marcus. I've got to say the art direction on that was exemplary, beautifully presented. And I'm thinking when Nick said that actually print versions of that, bang, would be quite impressive, especially to marketing agencies. So, so Marcus, what have you got from today?
Thank you for saying. I really appreciate that. And it's always nice to hear something, something positive. And I was thinking during today, gosh, I've got so much to do. And then I thought, I'm getting nowhere. Then I think, hold on, I've got to shoot this afternoon. I've got to shoot on Friday. And sometimes it's very difficult. I find it very difficult. Not focusing on the achievements that I've done as well, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit confused at the moment, Paul. I don't know. I think it's the good weather. I just want to go outside and do nothing, to be honest, at the moment.
Well, that's all right. That's okay. We're trying to get clarity. We've left you confused, so that's all right. It happens. Believe me, I do. I can't find what I thought I had up there to show you. But Manny, what about you?
Trying to I like what I didn't understand until Rebecca made it clearer. Running a business and self-employed difference. So I know it's going to be difficult for me, but I'm going to try to make sure when I step away from the business, it still runs without me. But because I'm the unique selling point, it's a bit of a challenge, but we're going to get there.
Where you are in the journey, you just want to get into the business, so you want to work in it. So don't worry about the other. And Rod, and then Pete. What have you got for today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is an interesting challenge, isn't it? Being able to step back from, the front line, as it were, and making sure you're dodging the bullets every day. And, like me, then I had to move away and, I've got another body to deal with. But I think the interesting thing is that what we're all endeavoring to do is to build a business that, regardless of who answers the phone, as long as the person, in my case, who answers the phone is similar to me and in respect and in delicate nature, or at least I think I am, I hope to be, the business, you're building that business so that because I'm a responsive business, whoever's here should, if they deal with it correctly, get the work.
Well, you are a good example of giving work out to and paying for people to do certain things that you don't have the skill to do or don't want to do. Pete, it's your first visit. I don't know whether I can't imagine there's any overwhelm with your background, but just your impressions of the meeting. Anything you've got from today?
I'm definitely not the right kind of guy to run a funeral directorship. I've learned that from Rod. No, it's been a nice reminder of the things that aren't part of my skill set. So I am used to having a marketing department, and no matter how terrible they were, and they were truly terrible at times, they did do a lot of things that I'm not used to doing. And I found the direct marketing interesting because it's been about 12 and a half, maybe 13 years since I had any direct marketing reach me in any form, whether personally or private or in my corporate career. So I kind of assumed direct marketing wasn't a thing anymore. So to hear that it has a place and it's useful is quite refreshing, and it's got me thinking. But there are about 7,000 people in the country who are my target audience, and I'm not sure how I would get to them with direct marketing.
Well, one of the things I'd like to do is, especially at your first visit, is if we can get some time, do a one-to-one, and I'll give you a brief catch-up as to, and also just quiz you as to where you're up to, where you are now, where you're going to, and give some pointers from a marketing point of view that you might want to look at.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much to everybody. The sun is shining. Marcus needs to clear his head, and I need to get a haircut later on today. So I'll see you all soon. All the best.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.